And you are welcome. This is Creative Corner for Breakfast Extra. Of course, you know my name. It's Mazino Appeal. I'm not alone, never alone inside of our Creative Corner. Of course, we have with us someone very special. I've become a fan over the past 1 week. I'll talk less and let her do most of the talking, I promise. But I can't help it because I'm so excited. Her name is Tonye Jessica Omosuku.
Yes.
And of course, today she is inside of our Creative Corner as a very interesting content provider on Instagram, TikTok, and what else?
I would say mostly Instagram.
Mostly Instagram?
TikTok, I'm still just like playing around with.
Yeah. Okay. The very interesting thing with Tanya or TJ,
Yeah,
like
TJ is
your
best.
fans know you as. So the most interesting thing about TJ is that she is a scoliosis survivor. Now I say survivor very intentionally because it's just you. It's your thing. But tell us first of all, what it's been like living with curves, as you so aptly put it, inside of your journals.
It's been very interesting journey. It's been stressful for the I would say for the beginning of me being aware of like that I have this going on. But then it's beautiful coming out of it and just blooming. So yeah, it's been a good journey. I was diagnosed at the age of 12. Yes. I was I used to be this shy kid who wouldn't want to like take off her clothes even in front of my mom. Like so when we go out like buy stuff, my mom's always like, "Oh, try this on," and I'll go somewhere to hide. So she used to tease me about it, and then one day she was like, "You're gonna change your clothes in front of me," and then she saw that there was like a little tilt, and she was like, stand properly," and I'm like, "I'm standing just fine," and she had concerns, and that's why I went to the hospital, and they're like, "Your spine is moving away from its axis," so. Yeah.
And then when did you come to terms with living with it?
More. I would say it was when I don't think you really have a choice when you're told that this is what's happening. It's like it's here. You either fix it or you don't. And I would say maybe it was when I was 16, 17, because then we did a lot of like trying to figure out how we could fix this surgery wise and back braces and all of that. And then we hit like a rut and just stopped. It was that thing where we're not able to fix it right now. I'm gonna have to just like live with it until I can. So, yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the art part of your content. I mean, everything that you put together inside of Instagram and how beautiful it is and relative and how people rush there to see your absolute honesty and transparency and authenticity, originality, all of that. These are my words because I'm a fan now. However, you did tell a story about being in school one time and a new kid in class did this drawing on a board. It was a very interesting and emotional story. And I wanted to know how all of that feeds into who you are now, being a content maker, content provider on Instagram, and also living with scoliosis rather.
So my mom used to say that all these stories matter. Like when things like this happen, it builds character. She's like, you don't want it that way, but then it just like toughens you up, and it's literally a part of who you are. And for a very long time, I was rejecting who I was. Like when stuff like this happens, like I just want to put it away. I don't want to think about it. I want to keep going. But growing up, I realized how much all those events affected me, and I had to work through the emotions. So it's like, why do I feel this way? Why am I so insecure? Why do I not think I'm beautiful? Why do I feel the need? Like, why do I need a man's validation? Because sometimes it was like, I don't think I'll ever get married. No one's ever gonna love me like this, you know? So it was like a lot of things. But when I was able to like work through those feelings, it was like, you know what? I'm able to do this now, and I'm still a work in progress. How about I help other people get this? So I felt like my stories were very important to share. So,
Want to tell us that exact story, because I found it very interesting, so everybody gets to know what it was about.
Okay, sure. I was in JSS2 at the time. I still remember the boy's first name, and and I came to school that day. I was a little late, and when I got in, I could hear like my classmates laughing. I could hear noise like in the hallways. I was running, like, oh my god, what's happening? And I get there, and everyone's just laughing and staring at the board. And the boy who drew it was standing right there, and he had this. It wasn't a great drawing, but he drew it and he wrote Quasimodo by the side. And Quasimodo in, I think, Latin or one of these languages means deformed or half-formed. And I know it from the Disney cartoon
Hunchback of Notre
Dame. Yeah. So he wrote Quasimodo and I wrote my name as well. And I was just like, and then my friend who was laughing at the time got up and ran to the principal's office to like report, and the principal came in and then punished the guy and everyone else in the class except her and me. And yeah, it was the whole thing. I remember not crying because I just stood there and I don't think I was able to process it at the time, but then after some months, like years and everything, and thinking back to that day, it was like that was so humiliating.
Mm.
But yeah, it was. I feel like it's a moment I would never ever forget.
But you've come from that to who you are now. Only recently you posted a bareback picture of yourself up on Instagram, and it got a lot of following, a lot of people. And in fact,
Yeah.
I think you even blossomed even after that.
Yeah.
Personality-wise, what's the difference there from that moment when you were 12 to now when you're? I'm not going to tell them your age. What's the difference between these two instances? You as the burgeoning content provider, influencer, and all, and then that little girl who was shamed at that time.
I would say that little girl didn't really know how to handle anything, didn't know how to handle everything that was happening to her at the moment. And at the time, my dad was still alive, and I used to consider him my shield or my jacket, because then I used to wear a lot of jackets to just like cover, because the curve can be obvious, people can see it like when I wear regular clothes. So I used to wear like a lot of jackets then and all of that. When my dad passed away, it was like reality had hit. Like, you're gonna have to take care of yourself now by yourself. And I was like, so since there's no one to cover me, how am I going to do this? You know? And it just took me learning about myself, you know, and I just had to keep going. It was like, nobody's gonna be here to spoon feed you or tell you it's gonna be all right. When your mom leaves you for you to go to school and all of that, who's gonna do that for you? And God really helped me get to that space. So yeah, I would say the difference between then and now is the fact that there's intention. Then I left it for my parents to sort it out. Like, however I felt, it was like, if my mom told me I was beautiful and made me feel alright, like, okay. But then growing up to like, okay, you have to make decisions, and it wasn't easy, but my relationship with God, I became more intentional with that, and then I'm here now. So
You're a very bold person. Is that an effect of everything that's happened to you? I mean, on radio, first off, you're so boisterous. What are you called? Radio sweetheart?
yes.
That's your name on radio.
Yeah.
And then on your Instagram page, you are just blossoming with so much. It's vibrant. That's
Thank
the word.
you.
Let's talk about that art. What pulled you or pushed you to putting all of your experience into forming some sort of art that people can actually gain from?
I was having a conversation with my mentor's wife one night, and we were just talking, and she was like, have you ever thought about like telling people about, you know, scoliosis and all? And I was like, not really, because I feel like when people find out, even when people notice, they're just like, oh, are you okay? Is everything all right? Oh, does it hurt? Like, if I poke it, oh, and I just felt like I don't think I wanted that, you know, but she just told me that you have an idea who's gonna help, and it was just up there in the air. But then I enjoyed just like recording videos of like of myself, my stuff I was doing. I mean, I've been in media for a bit, like, oh, if I'm on set for a movie or like I'm live on air, I would do stuff like that, just record memories and edit them. And then at some point it was like, I guess I want to, like, people say like, oh, niche down, you know, figure out what exactly is this content going to be. And I started thinking about what she had said some years later, and I'm like, you know what? Let's try something. Let's tell a story. But before getting into that, I really had to know, why am I doing this? Is it just because she said it was a good thing to do, or do I really believe what she said? And it was like, you know what? It's a good thing. You know, people need to hear this. And like you said, when you go through, when you go through my comments and see how people are like, oh my God, I didn't think about the number of people. I always felt like maybe one person was going to look at it and say, oh, thank you so much. And I had to tell myself that it doesn't matter if it's just one person. What matters is that you are helping someone. You know, I would just do that. But now I find myself outside grocery shopping or something, and someone's like, oh, hi, I follow you on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, and I'm first thinking, oh, it's my personal, like, it's TJ, the creative. But then they're like, oh, no, I'm living with curves. And I'm like, oh, I barely have, can't remember how many followers I have there, but it's like, didn't see it like
It's
that.
a very specific kind of following, I guess.
Yes.
And the name is just out of this world. I love this. Living with curves is so elegant, such an elegant way to put it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So that's grand. So acting, content creation, and of course radio all fall under one sort of art, which is the ability to speak or be heard or communicate. But where did that come from? I mean, you didn't study that in school now, did you?
No, I mean, a lot of people
And
hear.
when did it really begin? Because I'm trying to plug this into when you became aware of TJ. So where and when?
I never thought I was going to do radio. People used to just say you speak so well and all of that, and they're like, how? They always expected that, oh, I was probably working in radio, but it was because growing up, my dad, one of the first gifts I remember was a dictionary, and he was very particular about how I spoke. And I would take his calls and serve as a customer representative for like clients. So I had a lot of practice, and I was such a Disney kid, so I'm very good at mimicking what it is I hear. So I would like do that, and yeah, I went on in that. Like, and then in church too was like, oh, want to do voiceover for this minister, come and do that. And they just kept going like that. So I kept having practice without intentionally wanting to get into the space. And then in school one time, people just kept like, yo, try radio, just try it. And then finally did. And I worked with like a radio station there. And that's how it started. And I feel like that journey of just knowing that I could do it made me realize that, okay, I have something here. And it started building like from then on. And I used to love watching a lot of movies, and I could criticize actors. I was always like, I feel like you're acting, I could see it. And at first I thought maybe what I wanted to be was a director. You know, like I could see it. But then, no, I joined the theater group in my church and went on from there. And yeah, I'll say the rest is history.
Well, hey, maybe it's not too far-fetched. I mean, maybe you still could be a director eventually. You never can tell. Moving forward with your career and also your content and all of that, and noting that not just people who are also going through what you're going through, living with scoliosis, are your audience. People like me, people like our director and our producers and that guy over there. We all love your content. What's going to happen to it after? Where is it going? Where is it taking us? What are we going to see you do? Are there going to be movements for people who are like you, or maybe other kinds of ailments that people might be going through that you could help? Politics, maybe?
Politics? Oh, I don't know about that. When I say living with curves, as much as yes, it was coined out of scoliosis comes in curvatures. You know, it's that S curve or a C curve. You know, so that's how I came about that. But living with curves, I would say that the curves actually don't just represent people that have scoliosis, but it represents people that have gone through different things that have affected them, their self-esteem, them just having these insecurities because of those things. So it's not, if you notice when I do my videos, I'm not always like, oh, so when you have it like this is what you're supposed to, it's just like, I'm also trying to speak to people that don't have it as well. I wouldn't say that I can't say right now that there's going to be like some movement, you know, for it. I would say what we're doing is one would say it's a movement, you know. But I'm really taking it every day as I go, and just taking the steps every day, showing up, you know. When I wake up in the morning and I feel like, oh, I need to tell them about this, I need to share the story, I go with it. I'll say the base for me here is like these stories that I have to tell, because I have a lot of them, ranging from my like low self-esteem to my fear of probably never finding true love, to a lot of other things. I would think that these stories are going to help a lot of people. So let's just start with the stories, and whatever they morph into or become, I'm sure everyone's going to be excited to get it. So
there's still people out there who are living with it who still feel quite sad and down. What's your word for them?
You're gonna be okay. This will be fine. I mean, you have to be intentional about your walk. That's one thing I'm very big on. It's like, this is happening, this is where it hurts. What am I gonna do about it? I recently was having a conversation with someone, and she's just like, oh, I don't like myself, or I feel like who you were before with the low self-esteem is where I'm at right now. And I told her, look at yourself in the mirror. There is something that you care for. There is something when you look at, if you take away society's opinions and thoughts, there is something that you look at and say, I actually don't mind this, this is nice, you know? And on top of that, are you taking care of what God has given you, the body that He has given you, what it is you have, the skills that you have? Are you sharpening those skills, you know? Are you sharpening those tools that you have? So I feel like there's a lot when you think about it, but you're going to be okay if you're intentional about your journey. If you want better for yourself, you will get better for yourself.
That's fantastic. Couldn't say it any better myself. Tonya, Jessica, thank you very much for joining us inside of our Creative Corner segment here for Breakfast Extra. I wish we could keep you for longer, but unfortunately we can't. But we'd continue to follow your endeavors, and I hope that it becomes a big movement. You might not want it, but I do, because I'm part of it already. Thank you very much for honoring us.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.